Kenny Williams and Cameron are players from University of North Carolina, and if you would specifically direct your to either Kenny or Cameron, it would be beneficial for those who are trying to do the microphones and the cameras and have them specifically up. If you have a question, just find either of our microphones, and we'll get things started with the first question. While we wait for that, I'll give you the downlink frequencies and the transponder numbers for the satellite feed. Galaxy 17 transponder 20A, downlink frequency is 12086.5. 12086.5. Okay, first question. Go ahead, sir.
Brett Freelander, North State Journal. For either of the players, how important has Garrison been this season for you guys? And when did you kind of see him start to grow into what he has become, as consistent as he's become?
He's been huge, here, especially in ACC play. He's been the anchor of our defense, and the way he's played the ball screen has kind of made our defense a lot stronger, because they can't attack off the ball screen the way the teams have somewhat in the past. So his growth on the defensive end has been huge for us, and I think it was around after Christmas break is when he really started to turn the corner, and his defense really took off.
He also provides a bit of an offensive presence down low. He's been finishing around the basket well. He's been doing a pretty good job on both ends of the floor.
Jacob Myers with the Columbus Dispatch. Cameron, how important do you buy the kind of sentiment that you have to be playing your best at this time of the year? And although you may not have won the conference tournament, you guys, do you feel like you're playing your best at this time?
Yeah, I think we're getting there. I think we've been improving all year, so I think this is going to be the best, products we put out all year. But you have to, or you'll go home. So, there's a lot more at stake. There's a lot more to play for right now, and you just got to embrace it and do your best.
Ross Martin, Inside Carolina. Cameron, how's your health? I know you sat out Monday and Tuesday with practice. Any update on that?
It's good. It's March, so, some people are a little bit more sore than others, but everybody's feeling something. And I'm all right. My shin was just a little sore coming off the AC tournament, and I'm feeling pretty good now.
Did you practice last?
Yeah, I've practiced the last 2 days.
Cam's just old.
Yeah.
He's just old.
Ryan McFadden from the Iona. This question is for either Kenny or Cam. How much does playing in the ACC help you guys for preparing for the NCAA tournament?
Well, 3 of the 4 1 seeds are AC teams, so we've been playing against the best of the best all year. It's a demanding schedule. You play a lot of good teams night in and night out, so you can't really take weeks off. So that definitely prepares you for something like this.
George Willis, New York Post. Cameron, just want to get your thoughts on Iona, team that struggled early part of the year, but is coming to this tournament having won, 10 straight games.
They've won 10 straight, yeah. Like you said, they shoot the ball well. They like to get up and down. They got some guys that can score the ball. So we're just going to have to play our game. We're going to have to do what we do. But, from everything we've seen on film, they got some guys that can do some things pretty well. They got a good guard in McGill. They got a guy who can score, down low in Agee. And so, we got to go out there. We got to play our game. We got to rebound. We got to defend, do everything Coach wants us to do.
Jacob Myers with the Columbus Dispatch. Kenny, a lot of people say that you have to have great guards to win in a tournament like this, experienced guards for that matter. In what ways, other than he's a freshman, but in what ways would you say that Kobe is experienced?
Kobe's a player, so he's not. I don't think he hasn't played like a freshman all season. But Kobe's played in big games. We've had a lot of big games this year, so he's had big game experience. I know March is different, but knowing him, it's not the moment isn't too big. He'll just go out and play his game, and that's what I'll tell him tomorrow. Just go out and be you and play your game, and we'll come out fine.
This is for either one of you two. It's Nancy Armour with USA Today. Roy's never lost a game in the first round. How does he get you guys to stay focused or get you guys prepared for a game like this, especially when you are a number 1 seed playing a 16 in a theoretically very lopsided matchup?
Start with Kenny.
Coach is all about respecting everyone. but fearing no one, and that's exactly what he told us. You step between those lines. Especially in March, you're going to get everybody's best shot. Everybody's playing for their life. Everybody's playing for their season. So we have to take the same mindset. We can't go out there and overlook anybody and think it's just going to be easy just because we're stepping out there and just because we're North Carolina. So tomorrow we're just going to step out there and we're going to respect them, but we're also going to play our games.
Cameron, you want to respond to that question?
I'm just adding on to that. He emphasizes it. He emphasized that we need to play hard, we need to play well. Iona has been in the tournament 4 years in a row now, is what he told us. So these guys, they're seniors. They've played in a handful of them. So he emphasized that to us, and we got to go out there and play.
I'm curious about that experience with Coach Williams when he has been in this situation so many times. Is he the type of coach that goes back and says, we had this type of game, we had this type of opponent when we had this team in 96 or 93 or whatever, or is he a coach that's very much, we're looking at the next game?
I think it depends on the situation. There will be times where he'll bring up something that might have happened in the past or reference it, but most of the time he's kind of in the moment, kind of focused on what the other team does and how we want to attack them. And we've been watching film on Iona now, and we've been preparing for them, scouting them out, running against what they like to run on offense, defending that. So we're pretty locked into this one. We know we can't get any further if we don't win this one.
Jaden Daly from Daily Dose of Hoops. Cam, you spoke about how this tournament run means a little more to you because you weren't on the national championship squad from 2 years ago. How much more motivation do you have going into this weekend?
I have a lot. I can't sit here and tell you that Kenny and Luke don't have motivation. It's also their senior years, and obviously they want to be a part of something special like another Final Four run. But for me personally, I've never been there, so I'm really excited for this opportunity. Just trying to embrace it as best I can and make the most of it.
Mark Herman from Newsday in New York for both Kenny and Cam. Just to build on what you were saying before about how seriously you take this, what did you think last year when Virginia lost to a number 16 seed? Did you watch it, and what was your reaction to it?
Kenny?
We were actually all watching it in our meeting room at the hotel together, and it's just something that you don't really expect it, especially with a team like Virginia. But we just didn't want it. We told each other let's not let that be us, and so we wanted to focus in a little bit more going into our game. But we all were shocked.
Yeah, I'd say shocked was what it was. We were watching in the meeting room, like you said, and everybody was just like, whoa.
Anyone else? Terrific job by our players. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Coach Williams will be here momentarily. Thank you.
Southside dude.
I met somebody the other day that said they played golf with you. Now I can't remember who it is. I live literally 100 yards from North Carolina, barely into South Carolina, over in the mountains.
Okay, where?
In the cliffs.
Oh, yeah, because see, I've got a house at right south on the south side of Hendersonville, Flat Rock. We love it.
Yeah, that's 10 minutes for me.
Kenmure is where I've got a house.
Really?
Yeah.
That's 10 minutes.
We're having a good conversation up here in case you guys were interested.
Coach Williams, nice enough to join us despite being well under the weather. So we will move on with your questions for Coach.
Yep.
Well, go ahead and start with a statement.
Okay, we're the same thing everybody's going to say. We're happy to be here. We're thrilled that we're still playing, and some of the other guys are not. We had a good practice this morning. We'll shoot around here is all we'll do this afternoon. But Kenny, Luke, and Cam have done a great job of leading our team, and then Garrison, Nasir, Kobe, those guys have really done a great job for us, helping the seniors get from game to game. And Kobe's been a scoring machine for us several times, and we've needed it every time. But he's been great at listening to Cam, Kenny, and Luke, and also understanding he's pretty doggone good himself.
We'll open it up for questions. Start in the front. Thanks.
Coach Ryan McFadden from the Ionian. Just what are your, from film have you seen from Iona, what are your impressions of the team?
Well, every time I hear the word Iona, it reminds me of Jim Valvano, Iona College. And he said, you own a college? You know, but you have to be old enough for me and Feinstein, we remember that. But when I watched them play against Monmouth in the finals of the conference tournament. Tim Cluis, good guy. He was Danny Green's high school coach, so I've known him for a long time, and I'm not trying to act like we're bosom buddies or anything, but I thought he was a really good coach then, and think it even more so now. Watched part of that championship game and even watched part of the championship game last year when they played. But playing them for us, we've got to understand they'll have 5 guys outside the three-point line a lot, and all 5 guys can shoot the three-point shot. Earlier in the year, it was 40-something% of the shots they took were three-pointers. The last 4 or 5 games, it's been over 50%. So we realized we've got to get out on the floor and cover out there. So it means Luke May and Garrison, those guys got to get out and cover the three-point line. They do like to play at a fast pace, but so do we, so we understand that part of it. But just trying to cover them on the offensive end, where the three-point shot and the free throw line are 2 huge parts of their offense, and it's the easiest way for you to get beat if you give them free shots at the foul line or free shots from three-point line. So that's the biggest emphasis for us.
Brett Friedlander, North State Journal. Roy, did Cam, his shins, was that a wear and tear kind of situation, or did something happen last week in Charlotte and was holding him out of practice a couple of days just a precaution? Or are you concerned?
No, I'm not concerned. Well, I'm concerned, yeah, but it's not something I laid awake at night about, kind of thing. Doug and Cam and the doctors have looked at it, taken x-rays or whatever it is they do, and I think it just flared up last week. I don't know if it was one specific incident that made it happen, but we thought it was good. I mean, he's 23 years old, and I held him out of a shooting practice. You know, it's just, my God, I told him when you get to be 23, you get to hold out of shooting practices. But then yesterday he did almost everything. Today he did everything, and doesn't seem to have any problems. But you're talking about a guy who's probably handled pain for a longer period of his life than any basketball player I've ever been around. And so he does a great job of that. But I fully expect that he'll play the way he's been playing.
Jacob Myers with the Columbus Dispatch. For Kobe, a lot of people talk about you need experienced guards to make deep runs. What makes Kobe different than other freshman guards in this tournament? And then when he's not on the floor, how does that kind of change?
You know, I don't know what he's different from other freshman point guards in the tournament, but he's, you know, we've played 30-something games. We're 26-6 or 27-7 or something like that. So he's played 30, 35 games. We held him out of 1 game because I think it was his foot. I'm not sure. He can't even remember that long ago. But I like scoring point guards, and Kobe is a scoring point guard. He's a guy that scored more points in high school basketball in the state of North Carolina than anybody in history. So I'm not going to get him and say, okay, you can't shoot. It'd be sort of silly, and I do some silly things, but that's not one of them. But he has an ability to put the ball in the basket. He's a good shooter, and I think will eventually be a great shooter. He can attack the basket really, really well. He has no fear attacking the basket. He's better defensively than anybody ever even thinks about. He's won our defensive player of the game, I think the second most of anybody on the team. Garrison's won it the most. Kobe's won it the second most. So he's a complete and all-around player. And, you know, the kids nowadays aren't like freshmen were 20 years ago. I mean, kids nowadays are freshmen. They've been everywhere. And I can remember I started coaching, we'd tell a kid, you come here, we're going to take you to Hawaii once every 4 years. Well, every high school player goes to Hawaii now, so it's no big deal. But he's extremely gifted, extremely competitive, extremely good. I mean, he's really a good player. Really good players even in their freshman year, whether you go all the way back to Purvis Ellison or Michael Jordan. Watch some freshmen have done great things in this tournament, and usually they did it during the regular season as well.
Go ahead. Roy, Nancy Armour with USA Today. I've got 2 questions for you. You said earlier in the week that the teams that have either won titles or made really deep runs have always had really good weeks of practice before the tournament starts. So wondering how your guys were earlier this week. And then you've never lost in the first round. How do you keep guys?
If we lose, don't let me know where you live.
But how do you keep
if that's perceived as a threat, it's true, okay?
But how do you keep guys focused and you know, engaged in a game like this where you are theoretically a pretty heavy favorite?
Yeah. First part of the question, the team that came to mind quickly when I started thinking about that and talking about it, because we've had a lot of teams that really got better as this season went along and played their best basketball at the end, but it was the 09 team, because I never could convince them that you had to guard somebody. They just sort of thought we'd outscore them. But those last 3 to 4 weeks of the season that year, they really concentrated hard on the defensive end of the floor and really got a lot better. This team, we just finished practicing an hour and a half ago or something like that, and we had a really good practice this morning. It doesn't mean that they don't screw it up and make a mistake, but that's the game of basketball. But I think our practices have been good this year. I think a lot of it is because we push so much, but I think a lot of it's because with Luke and Cam and Kenny, they sort of drag everybody else along. It's an experienced group that does that. And I think you have to play well. Practice well. I've never had a good team that practiced sorry every day and then played great. I've never had that. But I think this team has gotten better as we've practiced all year long. And particularly, I'd say the last couple of weeks, we've shortened practice a little bit, and perhaps they've realized that and focused even a little bit more, or just that they've gone out and done their work. Trying to get focused on playing against everybody, regardless of who you're playing in your seed, is something I've thought ever since the first day I became a coach. And my first couple of years as an assistant, we had some bad memories of those first-round games. I remember over in Raleigh, Black Sunday, us and Duke both lost when everybody thought we were going to win, and we were playing close to home. So I've always tried to focus on, now we're in the tournament, but if you're looking down the road, and this is corny, I tell our guys all the time, if you're looking down the road at what might happen, that's usually where you're going, down the road back home. And we try to focus on just playing this next game. And, you know, I guess somebody could use it as ammunition, but somebody asked me something a day or two ago about the tournament. I couldn't even remember who our pairing was in the second round, and I was being truthful. I got one of the 2 teams right. I didn't get the other one right. And somebody could probably use that, but, I mean, it really is that we're trying to get ready to play Iona, and I tell the guys, come on now, if we play well, maybe they'll let us stay around and play another one. But I think the kids are experienced enough to understand that part of it as well, too.
Was there a light bulb moment for Garrison, especially on the defensive end, that kind of got him to playing as consistently as he's been recently?
You know, he was okay last year defensively, but I think at the start of the season, you look and you have Luke and you have Kenny and you have Cam, and what can they do? They can all 3 score. Kenny's good defensively, the other a little bit of a liability at sometimes. You look and you have Kobe, who's a freshman who can score, but you think, well, freshmen can't defend. And you look at Nasir and you say, well, freshmen can't defend. And so I think that he saw that, because he's very bright, and says, I have a better niche with this team if I do a good job on defense. If coach can count on me. And then I think the other thing is, when you praise somebody, reward them, they tend to do the same behavior over again and try to do it even better. And so when we talk about him, how he's doing defensively and how dependable he is, and everybody should thank him for covering up for your mistake, I think he likes those kind of things. And I even think something as simple as grading the tape and listing who's the defensive player of the game. He likes to see his name go up there, as everybody does. And but I think he has bought into it. I want him to score every basket, around the basket. You know, if he goes out and shoots threes, the next horn you see will be him coming out, because that's not who he is. But he understands that, and I'm really, really proud of what he's done for our team.
Jaden Daly from Daily Dose of Hoops. Roy, have you seen any extra motivation from Cam, being that he's the senior that wasn't on the national championship team from 2 years ago?
Well, I'm sure that Kenny and Luke talked to him about it enough that he's probably got that motivation. They live together, you know, so they talk about the greatest time of their lives, the 3-week stretch in 2017 that he didn't experience. But I think Cameron is a youngster who has really wanted to be successful and has really worked extremely hard. As I said earlier, I don't know of anybody that's had as much pain as he has had during his college career. He's very, I almost call him an old man, you know, but he's very mature about everything he does and looking at everything, looking at the big picture. So I think he's hungry, but I wouldn't be surprised if those guys say some things to him away from me, but I just know he's personally really hungry himself.
Hey, Coach. Rick Russo from Knoxville WVLT. Tennessee, of course, is here. Coach, I wanted to get your thoughts on the job Rick's done with that team as they make their move here in the NCAA tournament.
Rick's a good friend, a really good coach, a guy that I enjoy being around. We were in Maui together last year, I guess, and he started out poorly, and they got better and better. We played him in Knoxville. He's a guy from Western North Carolina that I do really enjoy, and I've watched his teams, and Williams and Schofield, those guys, they get after you, competing on every possession, and I got to think Rick pushes them to do that all the time. So I think he's done a fantastic job, and he's one of those guys that when I see him, I just start grinning. So that's a pretty good legacy too.
Mark Herman from Newsday, New York. Just to follow up on what you were saying before about how much more experienced players are before they ever get to you. How does that affect your dynamic? Is it always a good thing? Is it sometimes a bad thing?
You know, I think it's good to have a little new enthusiasm. Sometimes I call it youthful exuberance. I think it's good to have that on your team and not just be, oh, we've done this before kind of thing. But also I like the old guys to understand how lucky we are that you're still doing it, you know, that we're back. I loved, I mean, really did, and we don't have a lot of well, we have the only ones who have our in-house cameras around, but at my house when we were watching the selection show, the guys, when they announced North Carolina as the #1 seed, put our name up there, they jumped up, and it was spontaneous. And I'm not of their generation. And I tell them, I'm glad I'm not, okay? I'm 3 or 4 generations away. But I watched some teams being announced, and it's not a cut the way some other kids do it, but I saw teams jumping up, and everybody had their phone in their hand taking a picture of their freaking self. I mean, come on now. Sometimes it's got to be being excited about your group. And this group, the old guys like Cam and Luke and Kenny, or the young guys, Nasir and Leaky and Kobe, they were genuinely pleased, enthusiastic about what went on. And I like that. That's not a cut against anybody else. It's just I really appreciate the way our guys handled it.
We're good? Thanks very much for your good
Thanks,
questions.
Guys.
Even better answers.
And
Coach
remember,
Williams.
I want to know if we don't make it, I'm coming to hunt you down.